Once again, we're back for F1 driver ratings, which means we are giving our editor free reign of the crazy intro. Our Chinese Grand Prix F1
driver ratings. This video is sponsored by the wonderful people at Squarespace.
It's driver ratings time, where we will grade each and every one of the drivers from 0 all the way to 10. For the weekend, not just for 1-2 sessions, the whole thing, mainly weighted towards the races. I know there's been an influx of new wonderful P1 listeners and watchers, so welcome in. We're very excited to have you. Let's get into it and start with Nico Hülkenberg. For Nico Hülkenberg, I have gone for a whopping 5 out of 10. Straight down the middle. Thank you very much, Nico Hülkenberg. It could have been so much better for Nico as well. However, he decided to lose 7 places at the start, where he went wide in turn 1 and turn 3, went off the track, through the gravel, caused damage to his floor, and essentially just undid all the amazing work that he did in qualifying. Had he finished well, I know he's finished 15th, but realistically it wasn't 15th. He might have got a 6, but sadly it didn't happen.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg, and I was actually weighing up a 3 as well. I think he's had an awful weekend. He messed up in the sprint qualifying, qualified 19th, got out-qualified by his rookie teammate, finished dead last in the sprint, and then in the main race, he actually had a good Grand Prix qualifying and bottled it immediately at the first corner and damaged his car, and then finished behind his rookie teammate again. So I think it's a poor weekend for Nico Hülkenberg.
You know what? You've convinced me. I'm going to go for a 4. No, thank you. This is what happens sometimes. The argument is offered, and I accept that. I'm not even going to argue it. I think that is a very good shout. They're just so anonymous that sometimes they slip through the cracks. The fans gave Nico Hülkenberg a 5. Gabriele Bortoleto started the sprint in 14th, finished the sprint in 18th, started the race in 19th, finished 14th.
I've gone for a 6 out of 10 for Gabriele Bortoleto. It's very easy to just go, 5 for both of them because they're at the back and it's a mistake. But the guy has basically beaten his very experienced teammate in both the sprint and the main race. He finished 10 seconds clear of him. He had a great sprint qualifying where he made it into SQ2. And yeah, it's unfortunate that he had that spin at the start, like his teammate, but he kind of recovered and made it back ahead of him in the end. It's no mean feat to jump in as a rookie straight alongside Nico Hülkenberg and essentially outrace him and qualify very well against him as well. So I've gone for a 6.
I can go straight down the line because I am going to go for a 5 out of 10 for Gabriele Bortoleto. It's very hard to grade the Saubers because they are so far back. But look, the spin at the start has sort of ruined any chances of him making a massive name for himself. Both the Saubers were out of contention pretty much immediately. Gabriele was forced into a pit stop right at the beginning and then just had to wing it on the hard tyres for a couple of stints. So, yeah, it's difficult. I'm trying to figure out whether it is Nico Hülkenberg just performing really badly / not really caring because he knows he's driving a dustbin, or Gabrielle's doing quite well against him, because Nico is one of the most highly rated midfield drivers. Let's not say most highly rated drivers. I don't think that's fair because he isn't compared to some of the drivers on the grid, but he is a very consistent midfield runner. Perhaps it just doesn't switch on in his brain because the car. He's like, well, the car's not a P7, so can't be bothered.
A lot of excuses for Nico Hülkenberg there. I'm not buying it.
Wow, Jesus. Anyway, Bortoleto gets a 5 from me and a 5 from the fans as well.
Are you looking to launch a passion project, showcase your business, or finally create the website you've been dreaming of? With Squarespace, you get an all-in-one platform that makes it easy to get online, no matter your experience level. I've been using Squarespace and it's an absolute game changer. Their cutting-edge design tools are fantastic. Whether you're customizing templates or using their AI-powered blueprint tool to get your site up in just a few clicks, the possibilities are endless. Plus, with Squarespace's built-in payment options, managing everything from online stores to services is completely seamless, all while accepting payments on your terms. It's so easy to integrate appointment scheduling and email marketing, helping you stay connected with your audience effortlessly. simply lovely. Ready to create your own website? Head to squarespace.com/p1 to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/p1.
On to Alex Albon. Started the sprint in 9th, finished 11th. Started the main race in 10th, finished 7th. I am going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Alexander Albon. I thought he was well on the way to a 9 or a 10 at some point, especially when he came down the team radio and basically just sounded like he was the big dog. And I really enjoyed that.
That was
Alex.
a big dog radio message, wasn't it?
I know what... It basically was like, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing, but in a lot longer and a bit more of a confident vibe. And I've never really heard that from Alex Albon before, and I want more of it. So it was still a really good performance, don't get me wrong. Obviously ended up finishing 7th with the disqualifications. A good haul of points for Williams. But yeah, I think 8 kind of reflects his whole weekend.
Yeah, I've gone for an 8 as well for Alex Albon. It's another good performance from him. Maybe could have got a bit more out of the car, particularly in the sprint, because we know that, well, himself has shown the pace in it. But a very respectable and good weekend all round for Alex again, and he's having a great start to the year.
So the fans gave Alex Albon an 8. Carlos Sainz started the sprint in 13th, finished 17th, started the main race in 15th, finished 10th.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. Expected a lot more from him. I know he's learning, but again, a bit of an anonymous weekend. Didn't qualify well in both sessions. Obviously, the sprint, he had a problem and had to box, which is why he finished so far down the order. But just not up to pace with Alex Albon just yet. So I've gone for a 5.
I've also gone for a 5 out of 10 for Carlos. Anonymous race for someone of his calibre. Surprised, I think, is one of the words. For a full dry race, nothing as chaotic or crazy as we saw in Australia. He was just the slower driver in comparison to Alex Albon. He himself said post-race that he's a bit puzzled because since he jumped in the car in testing in Abu Dhabi and Bahrain, he was quick straight away, but he doesn't know where the pace and that feeling with the car has gone, which doesn't bode particularly well, does it, for Carlos? But it's very much a 5 out of 10 performance, and I really hope for his sake he can pick it up in the coming races. The fans gave him a 6. Yuki Tsunoda started the sprint in 8th, finished 6th, and started the main race in 9th, finished 16th. I have gone for an 8 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda. I do think I'm not blaming Yuki Tsunoda at all. I think this is definitely down to RB in the strategy department. But Yuki, I think, needs to take a little bit more of a stranglehold on what is a good strategy and what isn't, because clearly RB make more mistakes than I think any team on the grid when it comes to strategy. He said post-race a very kind of PR-friendly-ish kind of, the strategy is the thing that probably we have to improve. No, you do. You really do. So what I'd love to see from Yuki is, no, we're not. No way are we doing a 2-stop strategy. That will just put us in the pack. It's difficult to overtake. So that's why I've gone for an 8 and no higher.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Yuki Tsunoda as well. His sprint was absolutely sensational. You know, he beat a McLaren in the sprint, which was amazing. And then in the main race, until basically that second pit stop, he was running ahead of Antonelli and Ocon. So if they'd done the one stop, you never know, and this is why it's an 8, because his tyres might have fallen off. You can't just say he would have finished there. But that's where he was at that point. And if he had finished there, he's finishing P5, and we're probably giving him a 10 out of 10. But it's just so disappointing to see how many points he has scored.
The fans gave Yuki an 8. Isaac Hadjar started the sprint in 15th, finished 13th, started the main race in 7th, finished 11th.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Hadjar. Much more solid job. Amazing job to qualify 7th. And he was running well in the race behind Ocon and Antonelli before, of course, that doomed VCARB strategy. And very unlucky not to get points, because one, VCARB definitely should be, and I don't think Hadjar drove a bad race at all. And yeah, he's actually showing some good promise. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for the rest of the year, actually.
I'm in complete agreement, and also with your grade as well. I've gone for a 7 out of 10. The sprint was nothing to write home about, but he showed glimmers of hope with a sensational qualifying. Just fell foul to RB's strategy. Also dropped back a little bit in comparison to Tsunoda. Maybe lack of experience on. Well, I mean, literally was technically his first race, I guess, in terms of wheel-to-wheel combat in Formula One, because he didn't actually make it to the Australian race, as we all know. So, very interesting. The fans gave Isaac a 7. Esteban Ocon started the sprint in 18th, finished 16th, started the main race in 11th, and finished 5th. It is a 10 out of 10 for Esteban Ocon, and I will not hear anything else than a straight, stone-cold 10 out the top of the freezer drawer. To go from where they were in Australia to here, and even in the sprint, for Ocon to deliver that kind of performance is an absolute worldie. It really is. And they've clearly taken a step forward of Haas. We thought they were the 10th fastest team, and then Ocon just gets 10 points from the Chinese Grand Prix. Beats Antonelli, Tommy's GOAT, and it's a phenomenal performance from Ocon.
I've gone for a 10 out of 10. It was a fantastic drive. The star of the race. Yes, the sprint wasn't great, but the main race is the one you want to deliver in, and boy did he deliver. He's finished 5th in a Haas. His move on Antonelli as well was incredibly ballsy, to go on the grass and make that move stick when Antonelli covered the inside. It's an absolutely amazing performance from Ocon, and I don't know how you can just kind of think it's anything other than sensational.
And obviously the reason why we are sort of saying you can't give him anything other than a 10 is because the fans gave him a 9.
Now it's our turn to be outraged over one difference in a grade.
Ollie Bearman started the sprint in 12th, finished 15th, started the main race in 17th, finished 8th.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Ollie Bearman. I know he's obviously finished behind his teammate, but I think it was a great recovery drive from what has to be said, a poor qualifying, and that's what let him down, because I think without that he may even been able to kind of be with Ocon finishing like maybe a P6. But it's a great performance, a lot of nice overtakes, showing glimpses of a bit more what we expected from him after a really poor Australian Grand Prix as well. The fact that he's kind of completely got over that straight away and delivered a great performance and been making lots of overtakes and things is very impressive.
Yeah, I was tossing and turning between an 8 and a 9. Don't know why I'm saying that. I haven't slept since the race because it's literally the same day. And I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for Ollie Bearman. I think the thing is that you don't really see him as a rookie. I don't know, it's a weird thing because he's driven for Ferrari in Saudi, and he's had a couple of other races where he stepped in, and he's been part of a few free practices and done very well. But no, I think he's fully deserving of a 9 out of 10, considering his experience that he currently has. And 8th in the end, obviously 10th on the road. Was a great performance, and he wasn't scared to make overtakes, lovely up and unders, chow here, chow there. Yeah, 9 out of 10 from me. The fans gave him an 8. Pierre Gasly started the sprint in 17th, finished 12th, started the main race in 16th, disqualified, but finished 11th on track. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10, Pierre Gasly. I think that the Alpine is actually, they've gone backwards. They've gone backwards since last year. Are they the first ones to throw the towel in and gone straight to 26? Do they genuinely believe, with Flavio Briatore there, whipping away at that team, trying to get them to be winners? Forget 25. We're off to 26. Whatever it is, they're not that quick. So Gasly to be right on the outskirts of the points in P11, obviously gets disqualified for being underweight. It's a 6 out of 10.
Pierre Gasly, I've gone for a 6 out of 10. Such a shame to see Alpine where they are. The car seems rubbish. Gasly did a decent job. 11th on the road is pretty good, but nothing insanely kind of special, particularly as Doohan wasn't a million miles from him as well. And I do think, even though the Alpine doesn't look that good, there is a chance in the midfield when it's all so close, and a really good performance can bump you up quite a lot of places. But just didn't work out for Gasly this weekend.
The fans gave Pierre Gasly a 5. Jack Doohan started the sprint in 16th, finished 20th, got a 10-second post-race time penalty for causing a collision. And then in the main race, started 18th, finished 13th, and also got a 10-second penalty for forcing Hadjar off.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 for Jack Doohan. A disappointing 4 out of 10 of kind of a bit of sadness, because I think he's actually shown some pretty good potential when he's not making headlines for the wrong reason and maybe being a bit too aggressive with Hadjar when he's not a million miles off Gasly and sometimes even in beating him. So if he just had a clean race, I think he would impress a lot of people. But again, it was a messy weekend from him, and he's just getting in incidents that he doesn't need to be in.
I've gone for a 4 out of 10 as well for Jack Doohan. If he's able to tidy up his races a little bit, maybe he does have a shout of completing the season, which feels really like harsh to say, but like that's kind of what we've been coming into the season expecting, is that he will lose his seat to Colapinto because Alpine want him in. But Doohan perhaps has surprised a few people that he has got some potential locked in there. The races is clearly where he falters a little bit more. The wheel-to-wheel combat definitely needs polishing. The fans gave Jack Doohan a 4 as well. Lance Stroll started the sprint in 10th, finished 9th. Started the main race in 14th, finished 9th. 7 out of 10 for Lance Stroll. People genuinely were saying that he was the driver of the day because he hadn't stopped and was running in 7th, then pit for fresh mediums, and then didn't really make that much progress after doing that. And everyone was, but what about Lance Stroll, guys? What about Lance Stroll? He literally finished in 12th without the disqualifications. However, that being said, he's doing all right. You know, in the sprint, he was finishing in 9th. Of course, he still picked up a couple of points after the disqualifications as well in the race. So yeah, it's nothing crazy. We're not talking 10s, but it's a 7, and I'm respecting the fact he's the only driver scoring points at Aston Martin right now.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Lance Stroll.
No bite at all, Tommy?
No bite at all.
Because I know for new viewers, they might be like, what, Matt, why are you saying it like that? It's because Tommy is a Fernando Alonso stan, and I've got to get my own back somehow.
Fair. I'm actually more impressed by his sprint than his main race. I know people are like, oh my God, his main race was amazing. He finished behind Gasly on the road, who we've just given a 6. So it was a decent drive, but I think he's just kind of finished where the Aston Martin should be anyway, to be honest. And he was behind Alonso when Alonso retired. I know that was really early on. But his sprint was very good. And actually, you know, he held up Norris. He was the one that Lando couldn't get past. So, Lance is doing... he's had a great season and scored a lot of points, while his teammate has had poor luck and would be ahead in the championship, but it's not because of poor luck. There we go. I've been now.
Hold on, we got a big one. Oh!
Yeah.
Love it. The fans gave Lance Stroll a 7 as well. Fernando Alonso started the sprint in 11th, finished 10th, started the main race in 13th, did not finish.
I've gone for a 5 out of 10 for Fernando Alonso. Difficult driver to rate. Disastrous start to the season for Alonso. I think people, I know you were baiting me, but I hope you'd have a little bit of that it's all jest, and when we actually talk about some proper wheel knowledge, that it's not Alonso being terrible because he was ahead of Stroll in Melbourne and he was ahead again, and maybe it is a little bit tongue-in-cheek and joking, but I think it is a bit overplayed. That's like, oh my God, Stroll's having this absolutely amazing season and is Alonso finished and he's too old and stuff. I don't think that's the case at all. He's just had 2 very unfortunate retirements.
Neither do I, mate. I don't actually think that. I think Fernando's still one of the best, most wily foxes on the grid, and I'd love to see him fighting at the top, but look, I'm lashing out. I've had both Ferraris disqualified. Just let me have this.
I'll let you have something.
So for me, Fernando Alonso gets a 5 out of 10 as well. He just hasn't had a clean start to the season. It's as simple as that. As soon as he gets... We'll get to Japan or Bahrain or wherever it might be, and he'll pop it and finish 7th, and everyone will go, oh, he's back. He didn't leave. He just needed a clean weekend where his car didn't break or there wasn't a massive amount of gravel just on the racing line from the car ahead. It will come. I'm very, very certain of that for Fernando. The fans gave Fernando Alonso a 5 out of 10. Kimi Antonelli Started the sprint in 7th, finished 7th. Started the main race in 8th, finished 6th, which would have actually been 8th. It would have been beautiful reading to see 7, 7, 8, 8. But either or, he finished 6th. I'm sure he's more happy with that. I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Kimi Antonelli. I was thinking 6, 7. Whereabouts is that for him? But since learning that he suffered floor damage on lap 1 after hitting some debris that affected the
imagine
performance
that was Charles
heavily.
Plate,
Yeah, probably actually. Sorry, Kimi, on behalf of Charles, if it was indeed Charles. But yeah, he finished quite a long way behind George. I don't think it was the most impressive weekend for Kimi Antonelli. Australia obviously was incredible for him to navigate those crazy conditions in such a great way. But it's still a good enough performance. He's settling into Mercedes really well, and he's not crashing like we expected, potentially, after his Monza FP1 outing. So yeah, 7 out of 10.
I've also gone for a 7 out of 10 for Kimi Antonelli. When other rookies have been making errors and spinning off and causing collisions and things, I think it's a respectable result. Don't get me wrong, it's not, oh my word, this is absolutely incredible. But he's delivered points again, and it's hard to say that's not probably at this stage what Mercedes would want from him. He's 5th in the championship after 2 races and a sprint. I think they'd have absolutely taken that at the start of the year. Yes, he's occasionally getting beaten by a midfielder, but he's still kind of learning the ropes, and he's done a solid job and just bagging points for Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship.
The fans gave Kimi Antonelli a 7 as well. George Russell started the sprint in 5th, finished 4th, started the main race in 2nd, finished 3rd.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 for George Russell. Got the most out of his car again, I believe. Maybe not in the sprint, but the main race did a great job to be battling Lando, even getting ahead of him at one point, of course out qualifying him as well. And George is just having a really great season from those first 2 races, and you have to applaud it, because there's a lot of questions, still a lot of questions about is he the team leader there, and will he if they want to sign a new driver, can Russell kind of take that number 1 status at Mercedes? And so far he's doing a fantastic job and can't really fault him.
I've gone for a 9 out of 10 as well. It wasn't far away from a 10, but maybe a slightly better result in the sprint would have leaned me towards a perfect score. But he's doing an incredible job at the moment, is George. Qualifying, the fact that he split the McLarens and was less than a 10th off pole was, quite frankly, shocking, surprising. Like, it literally surprised us so much when we were watching it live. And then back-to-back podiums now. We're starting to talk about, okay, if George can keep this up, if Mercedes can keep the performance, can he somehow sneak a championship if things start to get chaotic with McLaren, or perhaps they fall off slightly with performance? These are questions yet to be answered. But right now, George is answering the question that you sort of posed there, Tommy, of can he be the number 1 at Mercedes? Yes, he can. The fans gave him a 9 as well. Max Verstappen started the sprint in 2nd, finished 3rd, started the main race in 4th, finished 4th. It's an 8 out of 10 for Max Verstappen from me. He's doing what seems to be a great job in that car. You compare to his teammate who was trundling around at the back. Max is doing things that we expect Max Verstappen to do. Just lacked pace in the race. He came back towards the end. I think he said that, the second half phase seemed a bit more competitive, which was a bit more promising, at least for them and for Max. But yeah, I can't really give him any higher than an 8 for this weekend.
I got for a 9 out of 10 for Max Verstappen. His sprint was very impressive to end up in the top 3, deliver, somehow almost get pole position. And I think the pace in that car, particularly in the race, was pretty poor, particularly at the start. So I think P4 would almost feel like a win for him, based on kind of how it was looking at the start, where we very much thought he's hoping for P6. Obviously, the Ferraris got disqualified anyway, and he would have just inherited it. But he did beat them on the road anyway, and put in that move on Charles. So yeah, I gone for a 9.
Charles with a broken front wing. The fans gave...
Shouldn't have crashed into Hamilton.
I thought you were going to say he should have been underweight, but that one was easy, wasn't it? Max got an 8 from the fans. Liam Lawson started the sprint in 19th, finished 14th, started the main race from the pit lane, finished 12th. After all that, 12th.
I've gone for a 1 out of 10. It's so difficult because he is a capable driver, and I will keep saying this. It's clearly not all down to Lawson's ability, but you have to adapt, and he's been given the opportunity at Red Bull. So whatever you say about the car and how it's clearly not just the driver, he's still the one that's qualifying P20 in both sessions. He's the one in the car, turning the steering wheel. He's the one racing a Sauber and making absolutely no progress in the race. And even in a race where 3 people have been disqualified, he's absolutely nowhere near the points. Shocking.
I have also gone for a 1 out of 10 for Lawson. This car is not something that Lawson can drive. I think it's as simple as that. And I don't think Red Bull are going to give him the time in order to learn that. You can't learn on the job in this sport, especially in a top team like Red Bull. It just doesn't work that way. And as hard as the car is, we have to judge him on his performances. And he's being beaten by everyone in qualifying. Everyone in a Red Bull. I know that he can't find the window of balance, and he said it was 1 lap in the race, then it was gone again, and can't get the tyres in the right window, etc., etc. Yeah, these are reasons, excuses, whatever you want to call them, but it is still a 1 out of 10 performance, sadly for Lawson. And you can tell see it in the interviews. It's not nice to watch because that Red Bull second seat just saps the life out of you. Lawson, 1 out of 10. The fans also gave him a 1 out of 10. Lewis Hamilton started the sprint in 1st, finished 1st, started the main race in 5th, and got disqualified. I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton. The sprint was the most stone cold 10 out of 10 you can ever see in your entire life, obviously. Sadly, the weighting of our ratings go more towards the main stuff. And the main stuff, quali was all right. Nothing to write home about for either Ferrari. But he was in the mix. And then in the race, just really struggled. He just didn't have the pace. Despite his teammate having a broken front wing, he just couldn't really get close. And of course went on that 2-stop strategy, which turned out not to be the right call either. We're not factoring in, I think this is worth as a reminder, we're not going to give Hamilton a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10 because he was disqualified. That's not his fault that the rear skid plank has worn away by more than 0.5 millimetre that it should be. That's not down to Hamilton, in my opinion, and that's why an 8 out of 10, I think, is fair.
I've gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton as well. Massively over-delivered to put in, pole position in the sprint, particularly against, Charles Leclerc, who's been so good in qualifying. And then, yes, he had the clean air, but his drive was amazing. And to deliver a win, I know it's a sprint win, but a win for Ferrari in only his 2nd race, as it were, is really, really impressive. Main race, a bit more disappointing, of course. Don't think Ferrari had the pace and probably slotted into where they normally were. And again, like you said, just the fact that he got disqualified is not, if his skid block was the width of a credit card more, he's not suddenly finishing like P9 or something. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's just an unfortunate miscalculation, and it's driver ratings. So Hamilton is getting an 8 from me.
That's very fair. The fans gave Hamilton an 8 as well, so they agree, Tommy. All good. Charles Leclerc started the sprint in 4th, finished 5th, started the main race in 6th, and was disqualified.
I've gone for a 7 out of 10 for Charles Leclerc. Disappointing sprint, of course. Looked much better in the main race and maybe had the pace compared to Hamilton that we expect. He wasn't miles quicker than Hamilton, but was the quicker driver. Of course, had the damage as well. And we saw more of kind of what we expect from Charles this year, but unfortunately for him, disqualified. But again, it's not getting downgraded for the disqualification. He just had a pretty decent but not hugely spectacular weekend.
I've also gone for a 7 out of 10 for Charles. The contact with Hamilton at the start, I am putting more down to him, just purely because he was aggressive, eager, wanting to get on the inside, didn't anticipate where Hamilton was going to position his car. Very lucky that we didn't see both Ferraris out of the race, or at least with punctures or more front wing damage. And then from there, honestly, it pains me to think or to hear from Charles Leclerc afterwards that he felt like there was the potential to win the race, which is, I don't even want to think about that. Actually, no, I'm glad. I'm really glad, because then he would have won the race and then been disqualified, and you would have never seen me ever again. But he said he did some changes to the car and he was optimistic with today, but they lost 30 points of downforce, which was a big chunk of performance. So Charles had a huge amount left in the tank for today, and sadly I can't give him any more than the 7 for ifs, whats, maybes and everything else in between, because sadly it was slightly self-inflicted from the first lap, and then in the sprint, of course, as well, he was slower than Hamilton. So 7 out of 10, and the fans gave Charles a 7 as well. Oscar Piastri started the sprint in 3rd, finished 2nd, started the main race in 1st, finished 1st. 10 out of 10. This is a very wonderful, lovely performance to be putting in so early in the season. To put in this kind of performance, getting pole position, being the one to make less mistakes on that side of the garage, and then to win the race as well. It shows that if he can put himself in that position against Lando, I still think Lando is the overall quicker driver at the moment when he delivers. But if Oscar delivers more often and more consistently to his level, it could be very, very close, if not Oscar having the advantage. So brilliant performance from Oscar. It was a 10.
I've also gone for a 10 out of 10 for Oscar Piastri. If he keeps his form up, he's absolutely challenging for the championship, 100%, because he's showed that he's got the pace, he's got the racecraft, he's kind of ice cold. He is a proper Iceman when it comes to his driving and his attitude, which I love. And what a start to the season he's had, and that race was a proper I'm here and I will challenge for this championship, and it's very exciting.
Exactly the weekend he needed after Australia, where a huge amount of points were lost, and he could very much easily be leading the championship at the moment, but he's not. But the fans gave Oscar a 10 as well. Lando Norris started the sprint in 6th, finished 8th, started the main race in 3rd, finished 2nd.
I have gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lando Norris. He did a great job, of course. Not on his teammates' pace, didn't ever look like he was really going to win, but got the car over the line despite the issues. Bagged a lot of points for the championship, which is great. There were some worrying signs, though, I think, crept in during that weekend again. He did go off, he made mistakes, he messed up both qualifying sessions, it has to be said. In the sprint, stuck behind an Aston, finished behind an RB and Antonelli to be 8th when it was a car that should be winning that race, and we know should be kind of finishing 1-2 every race now. But he did turn it around in the main race, of course, and that's the one where you get the big points, and hopefully it's just one little blip.
I've also gone for an 8 out of 10 for Lando. The downgrades for me come from obviously the sprint, finishing 8th, making that mistake on lap 1, just putting himself on the back foot, really. Like it was genuinely just driver error. He positioned his car wrong, dipped a wheel in the sort of gravelly, grassy area, and from there on, around China, you can't really make up for your mistakes all that much because it's so difficult to overtake, like we saw. And of course, their entire conservation as well, because they couldn't pit. And then also, the qualifying, being behind Russell, showing his pace. Like there is so much raw pace in Lando Norris when it is hooked up. We saw that in Q2 of main qualifying. And of course, he was slightly unlucky towards the end of the main race as well with he was unlucky with his brake going long because he felt like he could challenge Piastri for the win in the last sort of 10-15 laps. And I would have loved to have seen if he could genuinely have caught him, but it didn't happen. And that's why I've gone for an 8 out of 10. And the fans have gone for an 8 as well. And that is it. We are done, wrapped up. Driver ratings locked away. I hope you've enjoyed it. Episode 2 in the bag, only 22 to go, and plenty more podcasts coming your way as well. My P1 has to be Esteban Ocon because he was driver of the day. He was robbed of that, and it's the only 10 I've given, so it has to be because I do feel like he was robbed of not getting driver of the day. So he's getting P1 of the day from me.
I will go for... I think I'm going to go for Piastri just because he delivered in the sprint as well, and it was a proper statement weekend from him to be like, I am here to challenge for this world title. Ocon, for me, no doubt the star of the race, but star of the weekend, I'm going for Piastri.
Okay, well, there you go. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening, as always. And that is it. We'll see you very soon. Japan in a couple of weeks. Hopefully we get a more exciting race than we saw in China. Hopefully we get less excitement after the race in terms of FIA drama. And that is it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.